Last night, everything came crashing down around me. I had suspected something was off for months, but I never had solid proof until now. It was late, and I was going through his phone, something I'd never done before. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. And then I found it: pictures, videos, and messages. It wasn't just one woman, it was several. Conversations that went back months, maybe even longer, revealing an entirely different side of him that I didn't know existed. The proof I'd been avoiding, hoping wasn't real, was right there in front of me. I confronted him immediately. I didn't know what else to do, and I needed answers. But instead of coming clean, he tried to minimize it, offering me bits and pieces of the truth like crumbs, thinking that would be enough. He told me it wasn't serious, that he had been feeling depressed over the summer, and that none of these women meant anything to him. He said he didn't even see them as people, just P0RN, as if that would somehow make it better. But it didn't. It felt like another slap in the face, like he was trying to reduce the weight of what he had done by dehumanizing these women and excusing his behavior. The worst part was, he wouldn't admit to the full extent of what he'd done until I pulled out my phone and showed him the evidence, pictures and messages that left no room for lies. I held the proof in my hands, and only then did he start to backtrack, realizing he couldn't keep hiding. He never would have told me the whole truth if I hadn't had that proof. That's what hurt the most. I had to force him into honesty, and even then, it felt like he was holding back, still trying to make it seem like it wasn't as bad as it really was. He said he'd been extremely depressed, that the summer had been hard on him. And maybe that's true, but it doesn't change the fact that while I was going through my own pain, grieving the loss of my only sibling, he was seeking comfort from other women. He wasn't there for me when I needed him most. I thought he was dealing with his own struggles, that maybe he just didn't know how to support me. But now, I see the truth. He was too busy entertaining other people, finding distraction in places I never could have imagined. It's hard to put into words the kind of betrayal I felt in that moment. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was about the lies, the deceit, and the timing. He wasn't there for me when I was at my lowest, and now I know why. It makes me question everything about our relationship, everything I thought we had. I trusted him, even when my instincts told me something was wrong, and now I'm left feeling like a fool for believing him for so long. As I stood there, holding the evidence, I realized how much had been taken from me, not just my trust in him, but the trust one had in myself. The signs were all there, but I had ignored them, convincing myself I was overreacting. Now, there was no denying the truth. This past summer was the darkest time of my life. My only sibling died, and I was completely shattered. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me, and I didn't know how to stand up again. I needed him more than ever. He was supposed to be the one person I could lean on, my partner, the one who would hold me up when I couldn't carry the weight of my grief. But now I see so clearly that he wasn't there for me at all. I remember the moments so vividly, those nights I would sit in silence, broken, waiting for him to ask how I was feeling, to offer some sort of comfort. But he never did. He'd come home late, distracted, offering vague excuses about being tired or overwhelmed. I thought maybe he was grieving too, in his own way, or that he didn't know how to deal with my pain. But I was wrong. Now I know what he was really doing during those moments when I needed him most. While I was struggling just to get through each day, he was out there, talking to other women, sending them messages, sharing intimate parts of himself with them instead of me. That realization cuts deeper than anything. It wasn't just that he cheated, it was when he chose to do it. The timing couldn't have been worse. While I was grieving, trying to hold myself together after losing my sibling, he was giving his attention to these women. Instead of being by my side, he was somewhere else entirely, wrapped up in conversations and pictures with strangers. He wasn't just absent physically, he was checked out emotionally, completely disconnected from me and what I was going through. I was grieving two losses at once, though I didn't know it at the time. I keep thinking about how different things could have been if he had just been there for me. I don't know if it would have saved us, but maybe the betrayal wouldn't feel so sharp. I needed him more than I ever had, and he wasn't there. Every time I reflect on those months, I realize that I was grieving alone, even though I thought we were in it together. He had checked out of our relationship long before I realized it, and now I can't help but feel like I was abandoned during the most difficult time of my life. I wonder if I could have seen it sooner. There were signs, moments when I could feel him drifting away, but I was too overwhelmed by my own pain to confront it. Maybe I didn't want to believe it. I was too focused on surviving, on getting through each day without collapsing under the weight of my grief. Now, I can't stop thinking about how he was living a double life while I was barely managing to live through my own. It's not just the infidelity that haunts me, it's the fact that he chose that time, when I was at my most vulnerable, to betray me. He took advantage of my grief, my distraction, to build connections with other people. And the most painful part of all is that, looking back, I can see all the moments when I thought he was supporting me, but he was really slipping further away. I was fighting my grief alone, and now I know I was also fighting to keep a relationship that was already broken. Part of me always knew something wasn't right. My gut had been telling me for months, maybe even years, that something was off with him. There were little things, sudden changes in his mood, unexplained absences, the way he'd brush off my questions about where he'd been. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I wanted so badly to trust him, to believe that he would never hurt me like this. But there's a reason people say you should trust your intuition. Deep down, I knew he was cheating long before I had any actual proof. My female intuition screamed at me, but I ignored it. I think back on all the times I caught myself wondering if there was someone else, if he was hiding something from me. I would ask myself, is this just insecurity talking? Am I overthinking things? And every time, I'd talk myself out of it. I didn't want to believe that the man I loved, the man I'd built a life with, was capable of such a deep betrayal. So I silenced that voice inside me, the one that tried to warn me. I buried my doubts, convinced myself that I was just being jealous or overreacting. But now, with everything out in the open, I can't ignore that voice anymore. It was right all along. I guess that's what hurts the most, that I knew. I knew something was wrong, and I still let myself fall deeper into the lie. I kept trying to convince myself that things would get better, that we were just going through a rough patch. I was so busy trying to fix what was broken between us that I didn't stop to consider that he had already moved on emotionally. All those months, I was hanging on by a thread, fighting to keep us together, and he was out there with someone else, living a life I didn't even know about. Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moments when my intuition flared up. There was the time he stayed out late with friends, and I couldn't reach him. He came home the next morning with a flimsy excuse that didn't sit right with me, but I didn't push him on it. Or the nights when he'd suddenly become protective of his phone, keeping it face down or taking it with him everywhere he went. I noticed it, but I didn't want to seem crazy by bringing it up. I let it slide. I convinced myself that it didn't mean anything, that I was just being insecure. But I wasn't. I was right all along. The day I finally found the proof felt like a punch to the gut, not just because of the betrayal, but because it confirmed what I had known in my heart for so long. My intuition was screaming at me the whole time, and I had ignored it. I think that's part of the pain I'm carrying now, the guilt of not trusting myself sooner, of not listening to that inner voice that tried to protect me. Now, I'm stuck replaying every sign I missed, every gut feeling I shoved aside. I can't help but wonder how long this would have gone on if I hadn't found the proof. Would he have kept lying? Would he have let me keep believing we could work things out while he continued to betray me behind my back? It's hard to say. But one thing I do know now is that I should have trusted myself. I should have believed my instincts, because they were the only thing being honest with me from the beginning. After everything came to light, I had to make a choice. I wasn't ready to just throw it all away, not yet. I know how that might sound, but when you've invested so much of yourself in a relationship, it's hard to walk away, even when you know you probably should. So I gave him two options, hoping that maybe there was something left to salvage. Option 1, we take a break, not a breakup, just some time apart to figure things out, to give ourselves space to reflect on everything that's happened. Option 2, we try to start fresh, pretend we're dating again, and see if he's willing to put in the effort to rebuild what he broke. I thought those were fair choices, a chance for us to either heal or rebuild. I wasn't asking for miracles, I just wanted to see if he was willing to try. But instead of showing any sign of remorse or understanding, he refused both. He said he couldn't take a break, that it wasn't something he could do. He couldn't even try to start over with me, like we were some lost cause, before we even started. His reaction left me stunned. I had expected a fight, maybe some resistance, but to hear him shut down both options without a second thought felt like another blow. I couldn't help but wonder, what is he so afraid of? Why is he so unwilling to take a break, even though everything we've built is hanging by a thread? A break doesn't mean the end, it's just time apart, space to breathe and think. But to him, it was too much. He didn't want to face the consequences of what he'd done, didn't want to do the hard work of fixing this. It was almost like he wanted things to stay exactly as they were, no matter how broken they had become. I felt like I was offering a lifeline, and he didn't even want to reach for it. That hurt more than anything. After everything, after the cheating, the lies, the betrayal, I was still willing to try, and he wasn't. He was too comfortable with the damage he'd caused, unwilling to change or take the time to reflect. It was like he expected me to just accept it, to move on as if nothing had happened, and that's something I can't do. What really gets to me is that I don't think he's in any position to make that decision. He's the one who destroyed our trust, the one who let our relationship fall apart. How can he be the one deciding whether or not we take a break? That should be my choice, shouldn't it? I'm the one who's been hurt. I'm the one who has to carry the weight of what he did, and yet he's trying to hold all the control. I don't know what to do next. A part of me still wants to take that break, whether he agrees to it or not. I need time to think, to figure out if this relationship is worth saving. But another part of me feels trapped, unsure of whether I'm making the right decisions. Should I just walk away? Am I holding on to something that's already too damaged to fix? His refusal to even try has left me more confused than ever, and I don't know if I'm ready to face the answers that come with time apart. I feel completely lost right now. After everything that's happened, the cheating, the lies, the constant dismissals, I'm stuck in this place where I don't know which way to turn. Part of me is desperate to walk away, to cut ties and be done with it all. But another part of me can't let go, not yet. I've spent so many years with him, building a life together, and even though it's all shattered now, the thought of just leaving it behind feels impossible. I wish it were as simple as choosing between staying or leaving, but nothing about this situation is simple. I keep coming back to the idea of taking a break. It feels like the reset button I need, time apart to clear my head, to figure out who I am without him in my life every day. I need space to breathe, to process everything that's happened, without the constant reminder of his betrayal hovering over me. I've been in survival mode ever since I discovered what he'd done, and I can't keep living like this. A break seems like the only way to gain some clarity, but the fact that he's refusing it makes everything more complicated. His refusal to take a break has left me questioning so much. Why is he so afraid of it? Does he think that if we take some time apart, I'll realize I'm better off without him? Or is it something else? Maybe he doesn't want to face what a break would really mean, an acknowledgement that things are broken, that we can't just go back to the way they were. I get the sense that he wants to sweep everything under the rug, pretend the affair was just a bump in the road, and move on like it didn't happen. But I can't do that. I can't keep pretending. What's worse is that I feel like I'm not even in control of this decision. He's the one who cheated, he's the one who broke us, and yet here I am, waiting for him to agree to a break like it's his choice to make. How did I end up in this position? It's infuriating. I should be the one calling the shots, deciding what I need to heal, and yet I feel powerless, like I'm stuck in a limbo of his making. The more I think about it, the more I realize I have to take control of this situation, whether he likes it or not. If I need a break, then I need to take it. He doesn't get to decide what's best for me, especially after everything he's done. I've spent too long putting his needs and his feelings ahead of my own, and look where it's gotten me. Maybe this break isn't just about the relationship, it's about me, about figuring out what I want and who I am without being tied to someone who can't even admit how much he's hurt me. At the same time, I'm scared. What if we take a break and it doesn't help? What if I come to the conclusion that there's nothing left to save? Am I ready for that? Am I ready to face the possibility that this might really be the end? I don't know. But I do know that staying in this constant state of uncertainty, of waiting for him to change, isn't working. I need to step back, even if it's terrifying. I still don't know what the future holds for us, but I do know that I can't keep going like this. Whether we can fix this or not, I need to take control of my own healing. And that starts with taking the space I need, whether he's ready for it or not. I'm torn. This whole situation has left me feeling like I'm balancing on the edge of a cliff, unsure of which way to fall. One part of me wants to believe that we can fix things, that maybe, with enough time and effort, we could come out the other side stronger. But the other part of me knows that even if we do try, it might never be the same again. And I'm not sure if I'm willing to live in the shadow of what we used to be, always wondering if the cracks are still there, ready to break open again. I've heard people say that love is about forgiveness, about working through the hard times. But how do you forgive someone when the hurt runs so deep? How do you move forward when your trust has been shattered into 1,000 pieces? I've been asking myself these questions over and over, and I still don't have the answers. Every time I think I'm getting closer to figuring it out, something pulls me back into the uncertainty. I wish there was a clear path, a sign telling me what to do next, but there isn't. All I'm left with are my emotions, confusion, anger, sadness, and the heavy weight of indecision. When I first discovered the affair, I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. It was like someone had pulled the rug out from under me, and I couldn't find my footing. Since then, I've been trying to get back on solid ground, but every step feels shaky. I thought confronting him would give me some sense of clarity, but instead, it's left me feeling more confused. His refusal to take a break or try to start fresh makes me wonder if he's even capable of the kind of change I need him to make. If he can't even take the time to reflect, to step away and see what's really at stake, then what hope is there for us? I keep asking myself, what do I want? But the answer is complicated. Do I want him to fight for me? To prove that he's willing to put in the work to earn my trust back? Or do I just want the space to figure out if this is even worth saving? I think the answer lies somewhere in between, but it's hard to see it clearly when I'm still so hurt. Every time I look at him, I see the lies, the betrayal, and the pain he caused. It's like a shadow that hangs over us, no matter how much we try to move past it. But then, there's the fear. What if I take a break, and in that space, I realize that I don't want him anymore? What if I realize that I'm better off without him, that I don't need this relationship to feel whole? That thought terrifies me because as much as I'm hurting, the idea of losing him completely is still so hard to accept. We've built a life together, and walking away from that feels like losing a part of myself. I don't know if I'm ready to let go of that just yet. At the same time, I know that staying in this limbo, where nothing is resolved and everything feels uncertain, isn't sustainable. I can't keep living like this, waiting for him to decide what he's willing to do, while I'm stuck in this emotional purgatory. Something has to change, whether it's him putting in the effort to rebuild, or me finding the strength to walk away. I guess the question I'm really asking myself is, am I willing to settle for less than I deserve? Or am I brave enough to take the space I need, even if it means walking away for good? It's terrifying, but I think deep down, I already know the answer. I just don't know if I'm ready to face it yet.